Jay here, Full Time Devils. Welcome to the Full Time Devils Manchester United podcast. I think it's episode 52. And as you can see, we're doing it a little bit differently. We're not in the studio, and I don't need to tell you why that is. So I'll introduce everyone. This feels like a reunion, guys. This is like one of my first ever Full Time Devil experiences. I think us lot were all on a Skype together. So we'll go around. Paul's here. How are we doing, Paul?
I'm really good, thank you.
But as cheery as ever, mate. You're always dead cheerful. I love it. It's what we need, man.
It's carefully cultivated.
The infamous John Shin's here as well.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
John, I'm a bit disappointed. There's no door behind you for anyone to walk into. So we can't relive my favourite ever Full-Time Devils moment, which I always bring up because it never gets old. And last but by no means least is Joshi. Josh, how we doing, mate?
Yeah, good man. Lots of time to now join these again.
This is what I love to hear. If there's one positive we can take from this horrible situation, it's that we can get you on more Skype calls with us.
That's good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. Unfortunately, we don't have many games to talk about, but there's still loads going on with Manchester United, as always. Lots of rumours, lots of stories, lots of ifs and buts and maybes. Now, a big story this morning at the time of recording was Odion Ighalo, who is my new favourite human being ever. Apparently, his Chinese club are offering him $400k a week to go back there next season, whenever the next season may be. So I just wanted to get what your guys' take on that. What do you think of that? Because we know he's a massive United fan, but we're not going to match those wages, if that is true, and it could well be. So do you think it's a case of thanks for everything and farewell?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure. Josh, you can go. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, first of all, I thought there was a new, like the Chinese league was initially just chucking money at stuff, but then they had all these regulations came in, so they couldn't do that anymore. So I wonder how true the stories are. But
fair enough.
But if they are true, then I wouldn't advocate for us to just chuck money at him and say, no, stay. He's been great. And it's been awesome. Breath of fresh air. He's clearly loving it at United, and we're loving him. But you just got to say thanks, mate. But we can't match that. And that's it, really. I mean, I'm not sure there's much else to discuss on that point, is there?
Well, that's that then. This has been the Full Time Devils podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Well, if I were to add a point to that, I think Odion Ighalo, he has been great. But if there's one thing that we can learn from his signing is that we have to sign players that are obviously fit for the squad, but we have to sign players that also want to be here. I mean, Odion Ighalo was the spitting image of a player that genuinely, from the bottom of his heart, wanted to be here. And you could see from the first minute that he's joined this club that every single minute he's cherishing like it's his last. And that kind of energy, that kind of mentality, it's an infectious. I'm sorry, I'm using the word infectious, but it's an infectious level of positivity.
Wow,
that
John.
we need.
Wow, John.
That's too much. That's too much, mate.
Sorry, but
in these times. Oh,
I'm so sorry. It's just been really.
I apologise on behalf of Full Time Devils for John Shin's.
Before anything else, it's been tough here in New York City. Yeah, it's nice to get to sit with you gentlemen and just chat about something bright for once, because I've been so doom and gloom. But on the side of Odion Ighalo, he really exudes that positivity, and somebody like that is not only just a benefit in terms of goal scoring, but he's a benefit to the squad overall. And I think moving him on, if we can't match his wages, it's perfectly reasonable, but it's a test. It's our test. It's our sort of standard going forward in terms of who we pick up.
Paul, just before I get you in, can I just ask you, Paul, do you think there's a happy medium here? Do you think that, okay, we're not going to match 400k. He's on 100k at the minute. Do you think we might offer him a little bit more where it's like, okay, say we give you 200. He's not the most highest paid player. A lot of money. Yeah, taking a bit of a hit.
All right, so we appointed our temporary manager on the basis of a few good games, which I think I was a great big advocate for, and I'm still glad it happened because my heart is more relevant than my head when it comes to football. But we have plenty of evidence that you probably shouldn't make massive financial decisions on the basis of a handful of appearances. It's lovely that he loves the club.
I don't know what you mean.
It's lovely that he loves the club. It's lovely that he's absolutely buzzing to play for Man United. I would say that probably at least 95% of the players, if not more, that we've signed in the last number of years have been absolutely buzzing to play for Man United. Not quite the same level of enthusiasm as someone who's been a United fan since they were a little kid, but that can't be the only bar. We also have to be looking at quality. You can't pay. I mean, listen, be delighted to be wrong. And he has done better than I expected him to do. But like, let's have a look at the teams he scored against. He scored a couple of bangers, but generally speaking, we've got a lot of data about Odion Ighalo's career, and there's nothing about it that says he's a £200,000 a week Premier League player. I don't care. Like, yeah, I'm absolutely happy to be here, FC. Like, give him the money. Like, it's worth it for the Instagram stories alone. Like, but yeah, it doesn't seem like a sensible decision.
No, I mean, it's a real shame for Odion Ighalo, because I think, depending on how this pans out, we don't even know if we're ever going to see him in a United shirt again. I'm not being melodramatic, because we are in the great unknown here. And he was the fresh air. He was loving it. He almost did what he said on the tin. As you mentioned there, Paul, I didn't expect Odion Ighalo to come in and start banging in hat-tricks against Manchester City. But when you've got Bruges or Lask or someone like that, and you need to give players a rest, he was coming in and he was doing a very good job.
Absolutely.
And his attitude and his sort of demeanour and his enthusiasm, it was, I'm trying to find a word that I can use there. I nearly did John's thing of saying infectious. It was endearing, and you did buy into that, and I bought into it. But I get where you're coming from, and he's one of those that I think, if we didn't see him again, he'd sort of fall into that quiz question, cult heroes, Henrik Larsson 11, where you're like...
The nice thing about that is, imagine you're Odion Ighalo, and before your career finishes, you get to become an all-time cult hero at Man United. That is pretty good. And not to be excessively cynical, but if he does leave now, that's guaranteed. Like, if he never plays for us again, I'd be sad. But we're not going to have to witness what happened when he scored one Premier League goal in his last 16 games for Watford or whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, his name will ring out forevermore.
And that's going to laugh as well, right? Because... Go on, Josh.
I was going to say, even if we were able to pick him up on 100k, I would argue that actually, we signed him because he was a kind of stopgap. We needed him, and we needed the rest for some of the other guys and whatever. But now we sort of want to be building more long term and building, building a squad around Ollie's, let's say, vision, right? Odion Ighalo, or whatever he wants.
I think that word is worse than infectious.
I really liked the way you said, "Let's say vision," as if you were like struggling to be generous and going, "Okay, let's give him the credit and call it a vision."
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, he wants, and Odion Ighalo wasn't part of that. But I totally see why we got him on the last day in the January transfer window after all the injuries and stuff. But that isn't how we should build this. You could argue that isn't how we should build a squad going forward, right? So again, going back to Paul's point, all the points that Paul made around, he's already established himself as a cult hero, and actually we don't want to see him decline, and you don't want to sign people on just on the basis of like this short period, all of that, and then also this long-term vision. You could argue actually, you just say thanks a lot, mate. We're always going to remember the stuff that you did, and the fact that you did it with such great enthusiasm, but now we've got to go forward and we're building for our kind of future for a title winning squad.
I think it's funny is, I'm with you, Paul. I think we will hear Odion Ighalo's name being sung in the future, and he's played like a handful of games, scored against a few Europa League teams, and you'll have someone like, I don't know, Paul Pogba, who'll probably never get his name sung, who's played loads of games, and all these players that have won things, but Odion Ighalo will be like a proper cult hero. It was a bit of a boost as well. It's a nice little story as well, wasn't it, and the way it worked out, and it was, it came at the right time as well, because we were just getting that run together, and there seemed to be a lot of positivity around United. We seemed to be getting that back. We were keeping clean sheets, we were getting good results, and he was a big part of that. So it was what it was, and I think you're right. I think I've got to agree with you on the thing that it could end up being, 1 in 16 league games, or, oh God, why have we kept him, or why haven't we gone out and bought a striker in the summer and gone with him instead? So
the one little, just tiny little thing to add for me is that a fundamental basis of this decision is whether we're in the Champions League or the Europa League. I think there's a much better reason to keep him for a year or two if we're in the Europa League, and you want to use European competition to rest players. Then he's a really useful player to have if we're going to be in the Champions League somehow next season. If they're, whatever. Then I would say that's when we have to say, like, thanks, this has been amazing, and good luck in the future.
One player we've been linked with for quite some time, and there's sort of momentum seems to be gathering around this one for various reasons. Some of them may be accurate, some of them are just nonsensical. But Jadon Sancho, he's been linked with United now for, I'm going to say about a year, maybe a bit longer. Almost since he left City, to be honest. I think there was always this rumour going around that United would one day go in for him and that he'd come back to Manchester. Now, I know we can't look into Marcus Rashford's tweets because the England mates, but that's added a little bit.
But you mentioned them anyway.
Yeah, he adds a little bit of intrigue, doesn't it? Because we're all bored as well. It's like, oh, look, this is it. This is happening now. Look, Marcus has tweeted him, and that means he's definitely signing. But we have heard these rumours. We've heard that United are going to make him a marquee signing, number 7 shirt and all this sort of stuff. John, I'll start with you. A, is it going to happen? And B, do you want it to?
Let's start with the second part. I want it to happen. I think bringing in somebody like Jadon Sancho is crucial. And I think it also connects with the whole Odion Ighalo situation. Odion Ighalo's situation, the signing of Ighalo was perfect because Manchester United had been filled with all this negative news, negative press, negative image. And signing somebody like him was a stark reminder to the entire world what Manchester United almost, I hate to say it, but was. It was a club that people were dying to sign. It was a club of massive quality. And I think we almost reinstated that feel-good factor with somebody like Ighalo. The goal contribution, whatever, but I think it was just the feel-good factor. Now signing somebody like Jadon Sancho, he's a young player. He's a British player. He's got massive quality. He seems to be going along very well with his England mates. And I think that somebody like him is just another signing in the positive direction. I think. Do we need him? Yes, for sure. And will we sign him? I think so. I think we've been probably pecking at this Jadon Sancho story for a very, very long time. I'm usually not the one to say, oh, we're going to sign somebody or we're not going to sign somebody, but I think this is something that probably will happen. I think this is probably a Full-Time Devils exclusive. I never said that, but I think this is something that probably will happen.
Do you know when he signs for Liverpool now? This is going to get clipped up, and that's going to be rammed down your throat at every given opportunity.
I'd rather this be clipped up than my old man walking in with his boxing.
Listen, I'm not going to stop clipping that up, John. I'm not. Yeah, nothing you say, mate. It's my favourite ever thing. I'm sorry, but it is.
I thought you were going to say, is it going to happen? I don't know. And you just went, is it going to happen? Probably, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, oh, shit. Okay, he's gone straight in with that. Yeah.
Mate, fair enough. Joshi, what do you reckon? Do you agree with John? Do you think it is going to happen? And do you want it to?
Want it to. Look, I think what I would want to happen is someone to come in to own that right side. We've not had that for a while, and I think that's what we need. Mata has played there. Mason Greenwood's done really well there this season. Lingard's been played there. Even Diogo Dalot has played a bit on that right-hand side. And if we're looking at this kind of more like 4-3-3, or that we seem to be kind of building towards with Rashford, Martial, or in through the middle, and then someone on that right, he's a really good fit. He plays off that right. He scores goals. He makes goals. He's young, so he's around that kind of same age as Rashford. Obviously a bit younger than Martial, but he's supremely talented, and it would be that kind of signing that would the forward three or the forwards ahead of the likes of Fernandes would be growing together as we go forward, so that he fits in. Whether I necessarily only want him to be in that position is a different question, right? Because it's more about the fit for the team, and he does seem to be that fit. So for me, yeah, I would be really happy if we did sign him. Whether it will happen or not, I'm not going to go down John's route. I don't know if it will happen. We've been linked for a long time, lots of stories. But the other thing is there's football downtime, right? So people are filling the pages with stories. So you don't know you can never tell what's real and what isn't. So whether we will or not is a different question. I wonder, and I think this may also be linked to the whole Champions League thing next season that Paul mentioned, whether we're in the Champions League or not, because he's young enough to either, if he really wants to join United, he's young enough to have another year at Dortmund and wait for us to come, and he may make that decision to get that extra experience in Champions League. Or he may decide, actually, I want to go. He's good enough, actually, to say, I'm going to hit somewhere else. So if he doesn't necessarily specifically want United. So I think that will be something that will be an important factor in his decision-making as to whether he actually comes to United.
Paul, do you agree?
Listen, as people that listen to our podcast know, the thing I like least about football is transfer speculation, which is ironic because it seems to be the reason that people engage with football for the most part.
The only reason I bother with football is I don't even like the matches.
The extent to which people prefer the transfer talk to the matches is very evident in the numbers, isn't it?
I know, it's so annoying, isn't it? It's like,
yeah, it's horrible.
You know, we've done like documentaries on like the Busby Babes, and no one's watched it. And we've had like Howson sat in front of a green screen going, we're going to sign someone, and it's gone through the roof. It's just, people just love transfer news.
So my opinion is that Jadon Sancho is good at football. He'd be a great fit for United. But I also think we're absolutely crazy to be talking about the transfer market this summer. Like, who knows what's going to happen in the next few months with football? Football clubs could decide, hey, instead of spending hundreds of millions of pounds and shedding that around the top clubs, how about we prop up the football pyramid that might be about to collapse? There's a lot of conversations that we don't know what's going to happen yet. So whether it will happen or not, I have genuinely no idea about. Whether Edward would be absolutely buzzing his head off to spend, as one of our listeners said, is Edward Wood going to spend the next 3 months while there's no football negotiating Borussia Dortmund down from 120 million to 120 million for Jadon Sancho? I'm sure he'd be buzzing to try that. But yeah, I'd love to see him in a United shirt because he's such an exciting, such an incredibly talented player. But no opinion about whether it'll happen or not right now.
No, I get where you're coming from as well. Listen, we all know everyone's got there's a great unknown. We've all got bigger fish to fry in terms of what's going on with our lives. But obviously, these are massive talking points at the minute for United. Remains to be seen. Does anyone care about the Greenwood situation there? Is anyone thinking, no, because we've got Mason and I think this season he's going to kick on? Or even Dan James? Or are we just thinking there's plenty of room for everyone?
Well, Dan James, I definitely don't care about, not in a nasty way.
That's fair enough.
He's a good lad, and he's worked really, really hard, and he might develop into a player of real quality. We'll see. Mason Greenwood is going to be, if he stays at United, he's going to be. You can clip this up. Mason Greenwood's going to be an absolute superstar. Mason Greenwood is unbelievable. You cannot stop Mason Greenwood. Doesn't matter who comes in the squad. The only thing you'll do, if you block up the route too much, you'll force him to go and be a superstar somewhere else. Mason Greenwood is the truth. He's the level of quality is unbelievable in a player that young. Yeah. But I think also it doesn't do him any harm to be fighting to break into a team right now, because it's very hard to be that talented and keep your head screwed on. So, yeah.
And I think he's someone who will welcome that kind of quality coming into the side, and not just everyone in the club, right? Will want quality coming into the team. And I'm not worried about Mason Greenwood if we sign Jadon Sancho, because he's so good. I mean, it's unbelievable when you watch him play. The swagger he's got in with his technique, both feet. He's not going to be stopped by anyone, right? So if we sign Jadon Sancho and Mason Greenwood goes up a level and Sancho's dropped, I'm all right with that, right? If we sign Jadon Sancho and he ups his level through the middle and Martial is dropped, you know what? This is the kind of the decisions managers want to be able to make, like this type of quality in the side, and we've seen it as United fans over the last 30 years. We've had quality. And you just got to find a way to manage the team. It's a different problem than what we had at the beginning of transfer window in January, where we had nobody, right? And I'd rather be in the problem where we've got so much quality that they're all fighting it out than in the problem where we're now going, we should have signed Jadon Sancho.
4-4-2.
Good old days. Remember them?
I do. We've been watching old games to find something to talk about on our show. And Rashford on the left, Sancho on the right, Greenwood and Martial up top.
You know what?
Bring back the 90s.
I mean, my favourite team was 93 to 94. I love that team. Honestly, those games were just epic. Every game was just, it was proper end to end stuff, and Kanchelskis and Giggs and Sharp and Hughes and Cannona, Keenan's in the middle. I can go on, but I won't. John, seeing as you're adamant that Jadon Sancho is a done deal, how is this going to affect Mason Greenwood?
Look, I think Joshi really hit the nail on the head. It's as a manager, you'd rather be sitting there with a positive headache than a negative one. You don't want to be sitting there with a load of just absolute subpar trash players thinking, what do I have to do to get the next 3 points? Then which of these players are more raring to go with the level of quality that we have? And as funny as it is and as ironic as it is, when we first signed Angel Di Maria, I absolutely hate that snake. But when we signed Angel Di Maria, everybody was absolutely just so excited because we're bringing in a level of quality that we've not had for quite some time prior to that moment. And he got ousted by Ashley Young. And, Ashley Young had, he obviously had his horrible decline. And obviously this is a very wild take. But in that moment, we needed Ashley Young. He was a very versatile, very utility type defensive player that we needed. And he pretty much pushed Angel Di Maria out of the team. And I'm not saying Ashley Young is to Mason Greenwood.
So you're saying Ashley Young's better than Angel Di Maria?
No, I'm not.
After you've confirmed that Jadon Sancho is signing for you. Now, John, this is just exclusive heaven for us here on Full Time Devils. I've never heard anything like this.
He's let your dad walk into.
Yeah. Where's Dad when I need him? Hey, quick, save me, Dad. I'm saying Ashley Young's better than Di Maria. Help me. Get into me. This isolation.
What I'm trying to, maybe I'm losing my mind. I haven't spoken to somebody in 2 weeks. Maybe I've been socially distant for like 14 days. I don't know what the fuck's going on. But what I'm trying to say is it's pretty much supplement to what Josh is saying, is that bringing in somebody like Jadon Sancho is not going to do any harm at all. If anything, it's going to push everybody else to do more, and it's going to increase the level of quality and the competition in the squad that we so need.
No, you're right. I mean, Steve made a point previous on shows when we signed Martial and we had Rashford, and I think we had Rooney, and we had, going further back when we had obviously Ollie and Sheringham and Cole and York. You always have options. You always have people fighting for places. And if we do have aspirations of being a club that is eventually going to challenge for the title and challenge for the Champions League and win trophies, you're going to need more than just children to play in the cup games. You're going to need, options, and you're going to get injuries as well. And the likes of Greenwood and Rashford to a lesser extent, and Martial to a lesser extent, they can move across the front three. Mason Greenwood, I think you could stick him in goal, to be honest with you. The kid's got everything. I'm trying really hard not to get too giddy about Mason Greenwood.
No, get giddy.
I'm 2 steps away from declaring, he's the Ballon d'Or winner in the next 5 years. He's the best young player I have ever seen, right? With my own 2 eyes. Like, he is so good. It's when he bulks up and he's already good enough to be in the Premier League, right? It's just a case of making sure we don't burn him out. But once he bulks up and is fully physically kind of in his frame, he is going to be an absolute nightmare for defenders. And he if he's managed correctly and he's supported with quality around him, get giddy. Trust me, this boy is so good. It's unbelievable. What I liked what you said there before, Joshi, about Greenwood was it's almost like we feel we've got to be good enough for him. Like, we've got to have a team that is good enough to keep him around, not the other way around where he's got to prove he's good enough for Manchester United. It's like we've got to justify to this guy who's going to reach the very top level that we're getting there as well. And that's what I love. I think, because I agree with that, I think we do. I think that he could go anywhere in a few years. Any club in the world would have him. And we've got to be at that level where we're challenging, because he isn't the type of player that's going to be, or deserves to be, scrapping around for top 4.
If there was any inclination right now that he wanted to leave United, he would have a pick of clubs. No club in the world is going to go. Every club in the world will want him, right? We're talking Real Madrid, Barcelona. They would want him 100%. Right now. If there was any inclination that he wanted to leave, he is that good. And I don't mind getting giddy about it. I mean, obviously you can't predict what happens in the future, but in terms of his talent now and his age, And if you look at how he could go, his trajectory is to the top.
Do you think, genuinely, right, serious question, do you think he can reach Ashley Young levels? That's the thing I need to. Can he get to like?
He might not.
Level?
He might not be able to reach Ashley Young levels of excellent public service announcements, because Ashley Young's in a league of his own in that regard. That guy's a legend.
That was impressive and depressing at the same time, where Ashley Young's speaking more sense than some of the people that are elected officials.
Sure.
But you're right. No, fair play to Ashley Young. I actually like Ashley Young. I'm not being harsh on him. You know my thoughts. I don't want to get into old stuff. Great servant, did his job. I get where John's coming from. Had a decline. But I'm glad that things are working out for him at Inter, despite everything that's going on, obviously. Another player we've been linked with is Jude Bellingham. Thoughts? Start with you, Paul.
They love him round here. So I live in Birmingham. He's absolutely beloved. Do you know the rapper JK? Every time Jude Bellingham scores, he puts on his Instagram another 10 million on the price. Because, he's a very promising young player. I've not seen nearly enough of him to make an informed comment.
Yeah.
Just on that, go on, Josh.
No, I think the only comment I can make is exactly that. He seems to be coveted, but I don't know enough about him at all, to be honest. The only thing I would say is he's, 16 years old, right?
Yeah.
So this is one way for the future, right? As good as he might be, it's at least I don't know, actually, he might be so good that he's ready for the Prem, I don't know, but you've got to think about his physical development as well, mental kind of strength and things like that. So this is one for the future. No matter what we pay, we may end up paying for him, or any club does. So that's all I would really say. I don't know anything about him as a footballer. I haven't watched him play.
John, just on that, you look at Sancho, you look at Bellingham, two players we've been strongly linked with. There's been a lot of smoke to this that makes you think there may be a bit of fire. Do you think we need to start looking at experienced players as well? Because it's all like, teenagers FC, which is great. But do you think we need to not just be looking at bringing in youngsters, but players that do have that experience if we are to have aspirations of challenging for titles sooner rather than later?
Sure, I think so. I think you always need a healthy balance of experience and youth. That's always been one of the recipes for success. But I think in Ole's vision, or in terms of what we're being fed to by the press, is that we're looking at youth and we're looking at more younger signings. Obviously, given the whole situation that we find ourselves in around the world, maybe there's just been a lack of news or lack of transfer activity, if you will. But we definitely, with respect to experience, we definitely need experience. But if I were to play the sort of devil's advocate, and let's say, hypothetically speaking, if we were to sort of make a basis that we weren't looking for youth experience and we were just looking for youth, maybe perhaps Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is relying on the current level of experience that he has right now and trying to sort of figure out his youth situation, because we're looking at somebody like Sancho, we're looking at somebody like Jude Bellingham, but within the club itself, we already have lots of problems, or rather sort of questions with respect to youth. We still haven't figured out what we want to do with Angel Gomez. We still haven't figured out what's going on with Chong. Yes, we signed him on a contract, but they're not as clear in terms of what they bring to the squad. It's not fully understood as to what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has in mind with these guys. So bringing in these youth might be able to sort of push us into a one step further direction with respect to youth. And maybe that might be a reason why we're not leaning too much on the experience end, because he might be just gambling and saying, look, we have enough experience in the squad. But I personally think that it's just simply because we've probably not heard enough. I think they're definitely looking at more experienced players. We need to be in the market for an experienced player anywhere across the pitch right now. I take any player right now, but overall, you need a healthy balance of youth and experience for any squad to succeed, period.
Just looking, I know it's difficult to look too far ahead because we don't know what's going to happen, but with the run we've had recently, with the fact we've got Marcus Rashford to come back, Paul Pogba, we don't know what's going to happen with him. He might stay. If he stays, fantastic. If he goes, we can spend that money on another midfielder, hopefully. And the players we've been linked with. When the season, say we're going into next season, say next season starts in August. Let's just say for that for a hypothetical. How confident are you with the way things have been going and the players we've been linked with, that next season could be a good one?
Well, if I were to say in terms of levels of confidence, just purely based off where we left off, I'd be pretty optimistic. You know, we've been let down so many times since Sir Alex Ferguson's retired. I have nothing to lose at this point. I mean, I'm about to be clipped up saying Ashley Young was better than Angel Di Maria. So
yes, you are. Yes,
I literally have nothing to lose. If we're just basing off of where we left off before this situation occurred. Bruno Fernandes was killing it. McTominay had returned. Rashford was leading the line. You know, we looked really good in the back. Aaron Wan-Bissaka was killing it. It was a slide tackle genius. You know, we looked solid. We looked decent. We had Pogba returning. We had Eric Bailly sort of returning. Just based off of that level of positivity, I'd be super excited going into the next season just because I think should Paul Pogba return, I think he could definitely, and should he stay, I think he'll definitely add a level of quality and level of depth and a level of experience that we've been missing for quite some time since his injury and things of that nature. I'd be super excited.
Joshi, going to you. Confident going into the new season if things sort of work out the way we hope in terms of signings and players coming back? Would you feel that I'm scared to say a title challenge, but I don't know, closer to a title challenge, shall we say, than we've been. I have to sit on the fence slightly here because people go, are you deluded with 37 points behind the Scousers? What is wrong with you? Which I get.
I think there's... Look, I wouldn't say I would be confident of any kind of title challenge at all. I think I've maybe become a little bit more skeptical given the last 6 years, 7 years, you know, that we've seen. We've seen kind of a few highs and then they've dropped down again, and now we're seeing signs. But the thing is, it does feel different. This last little run that we've had, it feels a bit more like there's a bit more substance behind it, as opposed to just a kind of we've just been, you know, like a new manager bounce, or we've been just totally fluking a couple of wins or whatever. It does feel a little bit different. So I would say I would definitely be excited about going into the new season. Less like if you look at the beginning of last season, not the one that's just kind of paused, there was a bit more trepidation. You know, Jose Mourinho was going on about he didn't get the signings he wanted. Going into that, I was a bit more like, oh, okay, I feel a little bit like Jose is going to do something here. And it did happen. But this year, if for example, somehow, let's forget this season that's paused, it may be finished, it may not be. But if we go into the next season and we've got, a couple of players in that are quality and the squad is retained, and there's still this feeling of positivity around it, I'd be excited about the new season, and we'll see what we can do, because we seem to be finding a bit of consistency at the back. We seem to be getting a bit more control in midfield and a lot more penetration up front in terms of goals. You can't really ask for more. There is a bit of progress there, but I wouldn't go as far as to say title challenge or anything like that, because it's just got to be just a little bit beaten down after the last few years of ups and downs and a few false dawns. So, but definitely excited to go watch the games and watch them on telly.
I'm sorry. Before Paul says anything, I just wanted to add, excitement isn't about your standards. I mean, if your standard is every single season for Manchester United, you have to win the league. I think that's just, I don't know. I feel like you're just kind of putting yourself down for no reason. For me, excitement comes with the level of progress that we've seen, the positivity around the club. Everybody has different standards, and that's what I mean with respect to excitement. You know, what's been brewing. Exactly. And I think Joshi touched on that a bit. I think what's been brewing on at the club and the substance that we're actually finally seeing, somebody like Bruno Fernandes, a quality midfielder signing that's really orchestrating everything. Things are sort of starting to click left, right, and center. That's what I mean with respect to excitement. If we go on a 10-win streak, that's a hella exciting moment. If we lose a few games, sure, it's not exciting, but just seeing that progress in itself is the overall sort of excitement that I was referencing.
No, I like what you're saying there, because I mean, going back to my earlier statement where I made about the 93-94 team, that wasn't the best United team probably in terms of quality, but it was the most exciting to watch in terms of the games. And, I do feel excited going into the next season, whenever that may be. Maybe more excited than I've been in the past when we've had dominant seasons, when we've had the sort of the really strong teams. Because that feels like, I don't know, with the likes of Bruno, with some of the players that Ollie's brought in. Paul, I know we're all sort of cautious about next season, whatever, but in terms of players, how far off do you think we are? Because when you look at it and you think, okay, defensively, we've been doing all right recently. Midfield, if we can keep Pogba, I mean, how many players do you think we need to bring in before we start saying, yeah, where we need to be?
No, I don't think it's about players, really. I think it's about, I want to see some evidence of something other than a brief period of good form. So in the run that we're on since we lost to Burnley, which, let's face it, we lost to Burnley at home, that was not so long ago, and it was really doom and gloom, and things have been really turned around since then. And I would say that in that, there's been 2 really good performances that count against Chelsea and City, both of which are games that we've been doing really well under Ole against big teams all the way through, and the problems have been against smaller teams. We've also turned over a number of smaller teams, but like the Watford game where we won 3-0, the first half of that game was absolutely dreadful. One of the games in this undefeated streak was the second leg of the game against City, which we'd kind of already lost the game, really. So it was a bit of pride that we were playing for in that. This run hasn't been like, we lost that 0-0 draw with Wolves, one of the worst games you'll ever hope to see in your life a few weeks ago. Now there's been a real uptick, and Bruno Fernandes, this is the thing, it's like Bruno Fernandes has been the architect of the uptick, effectively. What I want to see is that Solskjaer can keep the squad together, motivated, believing in him. I want to see his game management improving. I think we have seen some signs of stuff behind. Fan coverage is really limited. Like, we do this all the time. We have fun. We talk to each other. We love speculating about United and being involved and chatting about United. But none of us really know. None of us really know what's going on behind the scenes. What's the collective like? We can kind of get a sense of it. And I'd say my sense of it is we're a long, long, long way off being a team that can win league titles because we need to, because we're 37 points off. And that is not nothing. It seems to me that it's going to be likely that it's incremental. You want to look for it to be incremental. So I'm buzzing about next season. But honestly, at this point, I'm buzzing about next season because that will mean that 70,000 of us can gather and we can sing songs together and we can enjoy communality and the real positive side of being part of a collective that, invests in something outside of ourselves for fun, So like that's the thing that I'm genuinely excited about, whether United win the league or not. Honestly, at this point, and I guess if I was 20 years younger, I might feel differently about this because I'd be like, all these 40-year-olds go and they've seen enough league titles and they're happy. I haven't seen enough league titles. I saw every one of Alex Ferguson's league titles. Like, I was 22 years old when we won the treble. Like, this is I've seen it and done it. So for me, I'm sated in terms of winning stuff. I want the team to be a team that I can emotionally invest in. That's why I don't care how bad, I don't care how many points fewer we've got. I'll take Ollie being the manager over Jose every single day of the week and twice on Sundays because, you can care about the team in a different way. So I'm very optimistic about next season in terms of us being a collective and enjoying it.
I'm hoping that, I see where you're coming from, Paul, and I'm hoping that we do get a bit of perspective after what's happened and we can. I don't want to get all schmaltzy and deluded, and I know people are going to moan and argue, and, in a year's time we'll probably be having a debate about whether Ollie should be sacked or whatever. But it would be nice if people could just, get behind the team, come together, say, listen, we've been through this horrible time. We've got a manager we all love, regardless of whether we think he's the right man. We've got players that are coming through the ranks. Let's try and sort of be united, for want of a better word.
Honestly, and what is wrong with being schmaltzy? Like, why do we care about football? Is it just because you want the thing that you've decided to support to be the team that wins everything? Or is there something bigger than that? And what you've just said, that's exactly where my heart's at. And I think right now we could all do with a bit of emotionality and a bit of warmth and kindness and those kinds of things. There's nothing wrong with any of that.
No, not at all. I think you're right. And I think, when the season does start as well, it's going to be very, very emotional for a multitude of reasons. And one thing, just on the subject that we're talking about, Ollie, what have you made of the changes he made in terms of getting rid of some of these players. We keep talking about players that are coming in, but the squad has shifted so much over the last 12 months. It's been pretty amazing, really. Yeah, how many players he's got rid of and brought in as well. I didn't expect him to do so much so quickly. What have you made of that? Start with you, Paul. What have you made of that?
He's not got rid of a single player I'd have kept. Like, I think every single one of the players he's got rid of, he was right to get rid of. And
even Ashley Young, the best winger we've had, the best number 7 we've ever had, or we never had.
I have a lot of affection for Ashley Young, but I will grant that he's probably better he doesn't play for us. But I think every single one. Like I think that, like you said, the squad's kind of unrecognisable, and mostly he's kept. Oh, actually, there is one. I would have. Yeah, exactly. I would have hoped that the club kept Ander, but I don't think it was the worst thing in the world to move. I think it was handled badly, and he wasn't replaced.
Well, could I just say one thing, right? And I'm not ITK, and I wear that as a badge of honour. I am the least ITK person you'll ever know, but I've had it from so many people that Ollie wanted to keep Herrera.
Exactly.
And it wasn't his decision.
Exactly.
It was a combination of the club messing up and Herrera just going, you know what, I'm going, I've had a better offer, and I'm not happy with the way I've been treated. So I'd almost give Ollie a pass on that one. I really would. And
me
again,
too.
It's not me being, having my mate down the chip, he told me that literally almost any journalist that I trust and anyone associated with a club that I trust has said the same thing. So it'd be amazing if that wasn't true.
It's very obvious, isn't it? Like I said, we don't know the deep truths of the things behind the scenes. But this one, you just put the pieces together and you go, no, this was a contract mess up. This was classic Woodward. Like, that's all this was. But like Lukaku, you could argue there was a role for, but I think it's absolutely the right thing to do to move on from him, because you're looking to build something. And there might be a bit of short-term pain to that, but it was worth it in the long run.
It was a role that he didn't want to play, I think. It's not that we were desperate to keep him. I think we would have kept him, but only as a backup if he wanted to stay. And I think that's where it was. He didn't want to play that role. Basically what Odion Ighalo is doing now is probably what Ollie had earmarked for Romelu Lukaku. It's just that he didn't want to do that, and
he shouldn't. Odion Ighalo should come and have a good time, because he's at the end of his career. He loves Man United, but Romelu Lukaku should be banging him in for a top club somewhere, but not us. So I think he's done by far the best job of any manager post Ferguson in terms of moving players out.
Josh, you mentioned Lukaku, we've mentioned Herrera, some of the others like Sanchez, fucking no-brainer. What about Chris Smalling? It's a strange one, that, because he's now being linked with Arsenal, and I'll be honest with you, I'm worried, because I wouldn't want to see him go to Arsenal, because I think he's actually a decent defender, and we might be vying for the same positions. I know he's not like the greatest defender we've ever had or anything, but he could strengthen Arsenal, and I don't think we should be doing that. That's my point.
I don't know. Smalling, I think he just had too much. He had a mistake in him, right? There was always a mistake in him. But yeah, I think he was a solid defender. I think he gave everything when he played, but he was always a mistake in him, and I don't think he's not good enough on the ball. I wouldn't be worried if he went to Arsenal. I wouldn't be worried at all. I don't see him as he's not a top quality, he's not a top tier defender. I think he's solid and he's sort of reliable to a point, but he doesn't elevate a defence. And we're seeing that in Italy now, right? It's not like he's ultra consistent. He is making mistakes out there as well.
To be fair though, mate, one thing I disagree a bit is that his time at Roma, the Roma fans absolutely love him. I think he was like 11th, or he just missed out on being ranked in the top 10 Roma players of all time. I know people are giddy because he's playing now, and those sort of polls are always skewed. But I think he is playing well in Roma, and I get it's different levels, but I would argue that he's doing all right in Italy.
Yeah. No, I get that. But what I'm saying is, I wouldn't be worried about him. We need to be able to say, right, he's not right for the club. Again, it's similar-ish to Romelu Lukaku, right? Like, he's not right for the club. He doesn't want to be able to move him on. Smalling, if we went into next season and someone said to me, our starting centre-backs were Harry Maguire and Chris Smalling, I'd be worried. I would then say, No, that doesn't feel. I mean, just think of it. It doesn't feel solid. And if I said to you, at Arsenal, they're starting centre backs. I don't even know who they are now. Is it Skodran Mustafi and Chris Smalling? I'd be like, you're having a laugh, mate. Crack on. I wouldn't be worried about it at all. I wouldn't be worried about him.
Such are the Silvestras about it, do you think?
Maybe not quite that bad. I think he's solid. I like Chris Smalling. I like him. I just don't think he's top tier. Right? He's not quality. He's not up there with that where I'm worried about him going to another club.
Fair enough, John. What's your take on it? Do you think Smalling going to Arsenal, would that worry you, or do you think you're not bothered because he's not that good?
Not too bothered by it. To be honest with you, like over the years on Full Time Devils, one of the biggest hate that I've received over the years is my affection for Chris Smalling over Phil Jones. I still sit here and am still shocked that Phil Jones is here as opposed to Chris Smalling, because I personally thought
Doesn't everyone agree with that?
No,
I thought that was a universal opinion.
Yeah.
No, you will be very surprised. I've had,
I feel the pain in his voice.
I don't mean to sidetrack, but I've had an array of threats and abuse hurled at me over the years on Full Time Devils. But the most consistent threat I've had and the consistent abuse was about Chris Smalling. And all the while, I think that although Chris Smalling is, for me in my heart, a little bit higher in terms of the quality of center back scale than Phil Jones, moving him on, I think Joshi had a spot on. I don't think he's somebody that we'd be sulking about. He wasn't fit for the project that we're trying to sort of create and draw up. And if he goes to somewhere like Arsenal, so be it. As much as I hate to say it, it's almost like Danny Welbeck's situation. I think he had a lot of promise.
Wash your mouth out.
You need to know who you're talking to when you
know what?
Fellas, Jay in this chat, and you're coming here talking about Danny Welbeck.
That guy Welbeck.
Ashley Young's the greatest player you've ever seen. You can say that Chris Smalling's the best defender better defender than Phil Jones, but you dare besmirch the reputation of the greatest striker I've ever seen in my life. And me and you're going to fall out, Mr. Shin. Travel back, I'll be coming over to the States. I'll be having words with you.
I feel like
he'd have been the best ever.
I feel like most of the abuse and threats you were getting were not from people commenting underneath the videos. These are people in the videos with you. Howson and that lot.
I spent about, you had to pull the hours I spent tweeting and angling to people and making videos about Danny Welbeck. I could probably have built a car or something now with my spare time. Probably done something constructive, got a degree or something.
I've got 4 words for you. Danny will come good.
Thank you. There you go. Yeah. The Daily Mail picked up on that, not with my permission, by the way.
This is something I wrote called Danny will come good. Remember the penalty against Sunderland? You sent into the K stand. I didn't join in with the jeering because I knew Danny will come good. The Times people labelled you Bambi on ice, clumsy, gangly, shit. I ignored them as I was certain Danny will come good. Through 1-on-1 against Bayern, your weak chip didn't anger me. I just reminded myself Danny will come good. The goal in the Bernabeu didn't surprise me, as I've always maintained Danny will come good. Now you're off to the arseholes in North London, already calling yourself a gunner. 16 million quid is a bargain, and it pains me because I'm positive Danny will come good.
I'll stand by it. One day he'll come back to United. I wanted him instead of Ighalo, but thankfully I was overruled by people that know better. Just quickly on this one. Sorry, I know we've done transfers, but this one's popped up again. And I just wanted to get everyone's take on it quickly. Koulibaly, even get his name right. Again, probably paper talk, but people are saying that maybe we could be back in for him. John, I'll start with you. Again, similar to Sancho. See it happening. Should we go for him? Because he's talking about 90 million quid for a 29-year-old. Seems a lot.
This is where I'm going to probably go back to the OG John and say I don't really know. I'm not sure about somebody like Koulibaly. I think it's beating a dead horse. Somebody 90 million throwing some.
I think it's around that mark. Yeah. that he's being touted at.
Well, whatever the figure is, it just doesn't make sense to sign somebody like Koulibaly. You know, I was literally a few minutes ago, I was harping on about experience, but I think Koulibaly is not the right.
You literally said you would take anyone. So
okay, I did say that, but
you
90 million for Koulibaly just doesn't feel comfortable with me. I would take that money and look elsewhere into the markets. I personally, I will forfeit myself. I will come out and I'll submit defeat. I'm not the biggest in terms of, you know, footballing knowledge across the globe, across the 5 leagues, and say that there's probably better targets. You guys can probably ask other people. I'm sure these gentlemen here will probably find better answers for you. I'm sure Statman Dave, Stephen House, and these kind of people will probably give you better answers. But I just don't feel comfortable sitting here saying that 90 million is warranted for a signing. You know, it just doesn't feel right that we're going to be throwing that much money on somebody like Koulibaly.
Again, and I have to add this caveat. As Paul was saying earlier, there's so much paper talk in a minute. There's so many rumours. You know, I've seen journalists tweeting like, what would you like me to write about? We're at that level in a minute where people are just dying for content. So, again, people will be going to comments, well, Koulibaly ain't going to happen. It's a story doing the rounds. It's been doing the rounds a little while, so it's worth just commenting on. Paul, sorry, go on, Josh. Do you think?
I think the principle of trying to strengthen the centre-back position, I think I'm all right with. The individual, you know, that's a different issue. But actually, I mean, I really like Axel Tuanzebe. I really, in this situation, I would say getting in a £90 million or whatever £1 million centre back would be a bit of a blocker, right? In there, because you've got Lindelof, you've got Bailly, and then you've got whoever let's say Koulibaly, and then you've sort of got all right, and Tuanzebe. And I don't think Tuanzebe, if you compare like the Greenwood situation, it's different at centre back, right? You don't want to have constant chop and change. You don't really get that opportunity to come in and force your way into the side as much as maybe up top, because you want to try and build that partnership and understanding. So I would. Yeah, given his in that specific situation, his age and the cost, I would be more inclined to say, well, spend that somewhere else in the side, and I just want to see Tuanzebe get a run, right? I really like him.
Paul, you're from the Midlands, and Tuanzebe. So this is like sort of me trying to link this somehow. Tuanzebe had a stormer, didn't he, at Villa, didn't he, last season?
Yeah.
And then he's barely played, and it's such a disappointment because I actually thought he would be knocking on the door. We've not seen him, have we?
If he hadn't been injured, he'd have been knocking on the door. I don't think we need a new centre-back. I just don't. I think we've got other much, much bigger issues. Maguire has been a clear upgrade on what we had before. Some little tweaks to work out, but that's getting better in my opinion. I don't think Maguire and Lindelof are paired because they're too similar. I think you almost have one of Maguire and Lindelof along. I don't mean as first choice. I mean across the season in the squad rotation. You want to be looking at one of Maguire and Lindelof and one of Bailly and Tuanzebe. Because I think Eric Bailly's also got a lot to offer still. I mean, we'll see if he can keep himself fit without two-footing someone and breaking his own leg too soon. But no, I like Tuanzebe is. If he hadn't been injured, I think he'd have played loads and loads and loads of times this season.
It's so frustrating because I love Eric Bailly, and like I'm with you. I think if he could stay fit, I mean, it's the massive if. I think him and Maguire would be a great centre-back pairing. Again, Tuanzebe, if he was fit, I'd be happy to see him being given a chance alongside Harry Maguire, because I think Harry Maguire is always going to be your first choice for most of the season, purely because of the price you paid. But it's just, we seem to have all these defenders who are 15, 16 game a season defenders or whatever, and we're lacking, other than Lindelof and Maguire, the players that can play throughout the season. Guys, it's been about 50 odd minutes already. We just breezed through that. There was other stuff we wanted to get into, but we won't. Just quickly, where can people find you? Joshi, you're back with us, man. I feel like you've just been sort of resurrected for Easter. Where can people find you and what you're up to?
Well, I'm back on. I went back on Twitter onto my backup account, which is Motty. A few issues though, because I hadn't used it for a long time, so Twitter thinks I'm a bot.
You always have trouble with Twitter, you. You're always up to some shit on Twitter.
Or my Instagram, Doc Joshi, all one word. And I'm just going to be floating about now. We're all in this not quarantine, but, in this kind of physical distancing, try not to go out so much. So I'll be around and happy to be involved as much as possible.
Also, it's worth adding, Doc Joshi isn't like Dr. Dre. He's not just using a nickname, Doc. No. He is a doctor. He does tweet a lot of good stuff, a lot of sage advice as well, and things that he's found. So do check that out on his social media posts in terms of what's happening with the virus and everything else. Paul, the no question about that pod, is it still going strong or what, mate?
Yeah, we roll on. So what we're doing is we do 2 shows a week. We do a different classic game. And we watch it and analyse it, and it's been so fun. So far we've done the 99 semi-final against Arsenal, the FA Cup semi-final. We did this. Yeah. Oh yeah. No. We did the first one. We thought we'd be.
I was about to say that's a bit weird, isn't it?
Dwight York was onside. Yeah, the replay. We did the 7-1. The Roma 7-1, and we did the 1991 Cup Winners' Cup final, which I'm sure you remember, Jay. Absolute blinder of a game. Like, really, out of those 3, it's by far the most fun to watch. Surprisingly, over the 99 semi, and then what we're doing, we're recording it tonight. I just watched it last night and this morning. The 4-3 2003 Real Madrid game, the Ronaldo standing ovation game. That game of football, like, considering United won on the night but lost the tie, as Alex Ferguson said, I enjoyed that. That was a football night. Absolute blinder of a game.
Do you know what makes me laugh? I seen someone tweeting the other day, like, I'm going to watch the 99 final to cheer myself up. And I thought, don't fucking bother. It was a terrible game of football. It was awful. Other than the last 2 minutes, I thought, just fast forward, mate. Don't put yourself through it. Some of the classics, like the 96 FA Cup final, that was dire, but the result was great. But no, those games you mentioned, absolutely spot on. Good stuff. I'll be checking that out. And John, other than the Ashley Young fan club that you're running, what else are you up to? Where can people find you?
Well, people can just chat with me, hang out on Twitter at Mr. John Shin. But before we sign off, if I may have the floor for a few minutes, I just want to thank people like Doc and Paul. They both are in the healthcare field, and I think it's very important that we always take every second of whatever time you have to thank everybody right now that's fighting out in the front lines, fighting in the back line, wherever they are, because right now we all need to be united. We all need to be working hard to try and protect each other. And Doc has been doing so much in terms of sharing the right information. I think that's very crucial, especially in an age of social media where everything's all over the place. Like people like me coming out and saying Ashley Young was better than fucking Angel Di Maria. I think the right information is very crucial, and somebody like Doc has been doing a wonderful job coming back, raised from the dead, talking about the right things. And just before we started this stream, I was sharing my concerns with respect to the fear and the paranoia surrounding all this pandemic and situations like that. And Paul he in 2 minutes, he made me feel 10 times better. So I think people in the healthcare field deserve all the love and respect. So if you guys out there, if you guys are watching, if you have anybody who's a nurse, doctor, EMT, even the grocers, the delivery men, every single person out there in the front lines, you guys should go show them your word, show them your love and support, because they all deserve that.
But from 2 meters away, at least.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry. Yes. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about.
One of my best friends works at Asda, and someone said thank you for your service to him, and he hasn't been able to get his head round.
I used to work at Asda, and I never got that sort of reception when I did. He used to get people shouting at me and moaning about where are the beans? Why have you moved him again? Listen, no, it's worth. I like what you said, John, and everyone on this podcast as well. They are on social media, and I like you guys. You're all engaged when people ask you questions, Paul and Joshi. You do reply to them. You don't just ignore them. You do. And if people have got questions or just want to chat, because we are all sort of stuck indoors. So if you want to chat, do get involved. Get involved in the discussion, the comments. Get involved on Twitter as well, and on social media. We want to hear from you guys. We know we're all sort of desperate for a bit of communication. So let's keep that going, because at Full Time Devils we are all in this together like we are across the world. It's something that's affecting us all. Guys, I've really enjoyed that hour's flown by. So thanks. It's been like an old school reunion. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. Check us out on iTunes. I think we're on SoundCloud, Audio Button, all that stuff. I've been Jay, that's been Paul, that's been Joshi, that's been John Shin. This has been Full Time Devils Podcast. Thanks for watching.